You know, making stuff can be kind of expensive when you get into materials, tools, and even just inspiration. One place that I love to go to is actually a charity-run organization I really wanted to tell you guys about. It's called the Habitat for Humanity Restore. If you haven't heard of the charity Habitat for Humanity, they essentially build houses for people in need, who need a proper habitat, houses. They also have the Restore, which is located all around the country. And it is essentially a thrift shop for building materials and supplies. Very cool. You can find anything from just straight up lumber, metal, pipe, fixtures, toilets, sinks, cabinets, countertops, furniture, I mean, chairs, tables, desks, bookcases, lawn and garden, and then of course you even get into hand tools and stuff that you can use for, you know, actually building things. A variety of electric tools. I always see they've got a couple shelves full of them, which $10 or less for something that, okay, maybe you might only get a few uses out of, but if you only need a tool real quick, it can be handy. And probably better than buying a Harbor Freight or equivalent sort of cheap tool. They also just have a lot of used stuff, and honestly, for making and creating, you know, some of the stuff that you can find there is really interesting. The store mostly works. They use a portion of some of the homes they demolish in order to make new homes to... They take things out of those and sell that in the stores. That's where you get a lot of the furniture, banisters, fixtures, paneling, a lot of the kind of the home features that have already been built into a home. You see that, and they get those from there, but they also take a heavy portion of their product comes from donations. Local, or individual, as well as business donations. A lot of contractors will drop off extra stuff that they can't really do anything with, so you'll see bulk amounts of tile or sand, things like that. And then the individual donations can vary greatly. So you get a lot of different things with the individual donations, and that's where a lot of the treasures can be found, because it's not as picked over as an antique shop or a flea market. It is, so there's a lot of kind of hidden diamonds in the rough. I just really wanted to kind of go through some of the things that I've found and made use of. The first thing I can probably mention would be this workbench that I'm standing at right now. I used a door for the top of this bench. I made the frame out of 2x4s. The top is made out of a door. It's not hollow core. It is a kind of a low density filler on the door, but it's got the hardwood slabs on the outsides of the door. So it's very strong and yet still relatively lightweight. And I've pounded on it, beaten on it. It's held up really well. Anyway, I got the door to cover this bench 2 years ago for $5, which is an amazing steal. I got the rest of the wood from this bench was given to me, so it made this entire bench, which is 3.5 feet high, almost 4 feet high, 6 feet long by almost 2.5 feet deep. It was basically, you get $5 for the whole thing. Maybe, well, I guess I paid for some paint, but and some screws. So this is a basic $20 project that, you know, a bench project can easily be hundreds of dollars, depending on how you take it. So that's one thing I had to point out. Next is some of the older tools that they have. Used tools that, a good example that I've got are files. And they've got boxes and boxes of these, and you can sift through them, and I just usually go for the big ones. Not because they're good at being files still, although some of them still have edges on them, but because, well, like this one, I've already started blacksmithing it. They make great knife stock. This is hard steel that if you've got the means for working it, just a grinder or a silly little forge like you've seen me work with, you can actually start using them if you're into knife making at all or any metal work like that. And you find some pretty interesting stuff. Well, for example, these two knives were just made, a little dirty, were made out of some files I got from the Restore. This one is kind of a razor blade style. It was kind of the aesthetic I was going for. And this one, I really wanted to try a brass hilt piece. Brass is really cool. It was just something I got in an ebony piece. But that's just spending some hours on the grinder and then the buffer, making that knife. That started as a file I got for maybe $1. So, good sources of good knife making materials, if you're into that. Another good source, if you saw my video on making a knife out of a saw blade, my video series, those saw blades I've gotten a stack of these. You see there where I've actually drawn a pattern for another knife on that one. These always are like $1 or $2 a piece, and they're good, hard, workable steel. That one had a knife made out of it, and this is just one I picked up along the way. So I've got a little bin just of hard steel that I've picked up almost exclusively from the Restore. Really good resource for that. And speaking of metals, if you keep your eyes open there, you find stuff like this giant chunk of 1-inch steel bar. This is 3 inches wide. This is probably about a 6-inch piece, and that's inch thick. So this is a good steel plate you could use for something. You could use it for hitting on. You could use it as a makeshift anvil of sorts. You could use it in a press. You could actually carve things in and out of it. I mean, to buy this from the steel yard, A, you'd probably have to buy more, and B, I looked up my local place, which has a great deals on metal, would have charged me like $15 for this. It says 3 on it. I think they actually gave it to me for like 2. They're really cool there, and they'll actually just kind of throw you deals. You also find stuff that, I mean, nobody will ever say you have too many clamps. So you find stuff like, this is just a little C-clamp. Grab it for 50 cents, clean up the rust off of it. That is one thing that a lot of the stuff there, it will come in that kind of light coating of rust. I found some really interesting bits of tooling there as well that have been various levels of useful, but really cool stuff, especially if you're any sort of collector of tools like this. So for instance, this this is a pile right now, but this is a Stanley No. 4 plane. It's in basically fine shape. Nothing's broke on it, nothing's bent, chipped, or missing. It was just covered in a nice fine orange layer of rust. And I've just been cleaning it. This has kind of been an extended project of mine. I think I'm going to probably get back to work on it soon. But it's, it was $7 for a perfectly usable plane that just needs a little bit of TLC. And honestly, if you're an enterprising sort, you could probably clean something like this up, get it sharp, maybe fresh coat of paint, throw it up on eBay, make 3 or 4 or 5 times what you paid for it. That and this would just be a good usable plane. These old hand planes are still fantastically usable tools and really satisfying to get a nice clean curl off of a piece of wood. A recent score that I found is actually something I would not have expected to come across, but it is a tap and die set from many years ago. I'd say maybe the 50s or 60s. I could be wrong. It's made by Greenfield, and it is the number B7. And it is the Greenfield Tap and Die Corporation, made in the USA, which is really cool to find these old American tools. And this one's actually in fantastic condition. There's a number of taps in here. It advertised 7 different tap and die sizes. This one's got some extras thrown in. The original owner probably picked them up on his way, especially with taps. There's like, I think 6 or 7 number 8x32 taps in here. Those things break, so I understand. One thing I thought was pretty cool is on the die stock here, I've got the quarter by 20 die in here. It's got a self-centering work holder on it. And that's not something that I've seen, honestly. I've never come across that. You don't really find that on. So it will go in my toolbox and get used. As it should, even though it's been probably in use to various degrees for, most of the last century. If you saw my blacksmithing video where I made a small scalpel-style knife, then you've seen my railroad track anvil. Now this anvil's pretty cool. It's made out of a piece of railroad track. It probably weighs about 25 pounds, so it's very lightweight as far as an anvil goes. And that's fine for me. It makes it highly portable. And for the level of blacksmithing I do, it's enough. I would love to have a 100-pound anvil mounted on a stump that would just sit in a nice area where I could have a dedicated forge, but my blacksmithing area is out on my back porch. So I have to clean it up when I'm done and put it away, lest it rust. So this it's good for the few things that I do. blacksmithing wise, and it was a really treat to find it there. I would have never expected to just come across it, and because you can easily, I do see these pop up on Craigslist starting at about $50 to $60 a piece, and then once you get into an actual anvil, you're looking at $3-ish a pound for a properly made anvil. This was $20. So, and it's enough that's all you need is something like this, something to hit against, and a heat source and a hammer, and you can get blacksmithing, which is really cool, and that's what got me into actually being able to do a little bit of blacksmithing. Not that I'm good at it by any means. Another little fun restoration project in the bins there. They've just got all manners of things you can come up with. You know, if you like hex keys, they've got billions of them for, I think, 10 cents a piece or something ridiculously low like that. Don't quote me, I don't know. But you can find cool stuff. Like I found this is a little hammerhead, and it was, again, coated in a thick layer of grime and rust and did not look exactly like this when I found it, but a little bit of cleaning, some acetone and a wire brush, very gingerly, and I mean, it looks great. It looks like it's been used, but it looks great. And I've been kind of working off and on hanging it on a piece of, this is red oak. I don't know if I'm going to go with this. I might try to find an actual piece of hickory, or just find a small actual hammer handle and hang it and be done. But that's a little neat hammer. If you like hammers, lots of guys love just kind of collecting hammers, using little hammers for things. You know, that would be fun. If, again, an enterprising individual could find something like this, clean it up, hang it on a handle, be $10 all in, sell it on Etsy for probably 30. I don't know, maybe more, maybe less. But you could clean these up and sell them and probably make a reasonable profit for a very small investment of money and time. This, I think I paid $2 for this, maybe. And you know, and you could smith this into something else too. This is also really good usable steel. The stand I made for my grinder is actually a piece of pipe that I also got from the Habitat for Humanity Restore. I believe it was an 8 or 9 foot length that I got for $10, more or less, maybe 15. But this is 3-inch pipe. Steel, I was able to weld it, and I was able to make a nice stand for my grinder. It's rudimentary and basic, but it works. So things like that, the Habitat for Humanity Restores are a really good resource for. You'll probably see me use this really soon in a project. This is a General Electric AC motor. This is I'm guessing a washer or dryer motor. It's a 1/4 horsepower, 1,725 RPMs. It works just fine. It's probably, again, 50 or 60 years old. I paid $10 for it. The bearings are solid. It spins great. It works just fine. It was super easy to wire up. The wiring diagram is right there on the inside of the motor. So you just pop the little access plate off and it says, hey, put these wires here. So I just took an extra cord and put those wires there. I'm going to use this very soon in an upcoming project. I've had this lying around with various ideas of what to do with it for some time now. But, you know, that's, again, project fodder. If you want a motor, you could go get one from a store for $50 or $100, or you could just find one, and you could troll Craigslist for a while and probably come up with a similar deal, or you could just go to Habitat for Humanity. Last time I was there, they had like 3 of these. You know, obviously your mileage may vary, but great resource. Well, anyway, thank you for listening to my little rant about what I think is a really neat resource for guys like me who like to make stuff and like to salvage old materials, and like to save a couple of bucks doing it. Thanks for stopping by. If you like this, be sure to subscribe. Check out my other videos where I actually make stuff instead of just chat for a while. Find me on Twitter. It's @PracRen, P-R-A-C-R-E-N. Facebook, just look for Practical Renaissance. And Instagram, I'm still posting it under my personal account of Chef Paul. So, thanks again, thanks for watching, and hope to see you soon.